Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our web development course here at Empower.py. We are so excited to have you here, and today we're just going to go ahead and get started with our HTML tutorial. And before we explain any of this code you see right here, which you might not know what it means because Replit automatically wrote it for you, we're going to go ahead and start with the simple explanation of HTML basics, so you may understand what I'm talking about when I go ahead and explain the code that's above it. Okay, so we're going to start with headings. So right under headings, you're going to go ahead and put in an angle bracket, and within this angle bracket you're going to write H1. Now we're going to close it in with an angle bracket. Now what this is called is an element, and this element is called H1. It stands for heading 1, and elements are made up of tags, and this is one tag. This is called the start tag. Now the start tag just has two angle brackets, right? But the end tag to end the element, to close it down, is the same thing except with the / right before what the element's called, so H1. So now this is your first, HTML code you've ever written, okay? If that's the case. If not, then sorry. But if you go ahead and run it, you're gonna see that there's nothing appears in the browser because we didn't specify what we want the heading 1 to say. So we're gonna go ahead and write hello world. What is going on? Okay, hello world. And now when we run it, if we click Control Enter, we can see that hello world is in our browser. Now we're gonna go ahead and back it up here. And now that you know what an element is and what a start tag and a closing tag is, I'm going to go ahead and explain to you what these tags are. So the first one we have is Doctype HTML. So what this means is actually it's not a proper element. It doesn't have a closing tag. It's pretty much something that's very external. It's just saying it's just specifying the language that you're writing this page in, or this document in. In this case, it's HTML5, and the code for HTML5 is just simply HTML. So that's what this tag does. Now, the second one you see here is the HTML tag. Now, this is actually the start tag. The end tag, or the closing tag, you can actually find it right here. So you can see that it's closed, it has a / So that means whatever is inside, all of this here is actually inside within this HTML. And what this does is just tells the browser that, hey, this is HTML. Okay, similar to the doc type. Okay, now the next element you see here is the head section. So now the head section, whatever's within the head section, basically you can think of it as page information. So it tells the browser or whoever's reading your code information about this page, right? So the first one you see here, this element called meta, it doesn't actually end. So it usually would have, this, and then it would have a closing tag, but in this case, that's not what happens. This is actually called these are called void tags or empty tags because these tags close in by themselves. But there are certain things that you can do within elements or tags, etc. You can specify an attribute. So for example, you're a person, right? And you have your own attributes. You have the color of your eyes is an attribute, right? The color of your eye is, let's say it's blue or green. So you could say, let's say there is a tag called person. You could say color of eye, so that's your attribute, and then you would set it equal to a setting or a value. In this case, we call it a value, and we're just going to say it's equal to blue. And so let's say this was an actual tag, but it's not an actual thing in HTML. It's just so you can get an idea of what an attribute is, what the orange thing is, which is a value, and you can kind of just, you know, compare and see if you understand it better that way. Let me go ahead and leave that there as a comment. So this would be your element, right? This is an attribute, and then you set your attribute equal to a setting. So you basically have this char set attribute, and what this means is actually stands for character set. It actually tells your computer, hey, you know, it actually translates the language. So this is English, right? Okay, let me make this a little bit clearer. This is English. The way you're writing this is in English. And what this does, it translates it into zeros and ones, which is a language that the computer can actually understand. So that's what it just does. It just translates your code, whatever you write, into zeros and ones. It's just for the computer, not really about you or what you're doing for the browser. The next one, we have the same thing, meta, but instead we have this name attribute, and this name attribute, it's actually set equal to viewport. And so the viewport is actually this white thing here. This is what we call the viewport, where you could actually see your code. You could also call it a browser. And then you have another attribute called content. So the content in your viewport, you want to set it equal to width equals device width. So it's pretty self-explanatory. So the width of your browser is going to be equal to the width of whatever device you're currently using. So for example, right now I'm using a computer. So if I open this up, it's going to be the width of my computer screen, right? The browser is going to be the width of my computer screen. But if I open this up on a phone, then it's going to be the width of my phone. Okay, so that's all it does. Now you have this title element. Now the title element actually changes the name of the tab right here. So right now the title is set equal to Replit, but let's change it to my website. Let's go ahead and run that. Now it's not going to do anything here, but when you open it in a new tab, let's reload, it changes the name of the tab. Okay, so that's what title is. So again, it's a bit more page information, nothing about the browser. Finally, in the head section, you can actually do something like link to your CSS style sheet, which we're going to be using tomorrow. So in this case, we're going to be using this link element, and href is actually another attribute in this link element, and href stands for hypertext reference. So it actually is a place where you're going to put in the link, but in this case it's an actual file so that we have right here. So we're just linking that file so that HTML knows that, hey, this is your styling sheet. But we're not going to use that quite yet. That's for tomorrow. Now, the next attribute is called rel. It stands for relationships. So it states the relationship between this file and the file that you reference to. So the relationship is actually a style sheet. And then the type, it's text to CSS. Okay. And that's all you have in the head section. You don't really need to know this to succeed right now. Like, it's not going to make a difference. All right, but let's get to the body. So this Replit actually does this. But we don't really need this right now. It's basically like linking to the JavaScript page, the file you see here, the JavaScript one. We can go ahead and delete that because we're not using JavaScript today. So finally, here we are in the body. We already did heading 1. I'm going to show you how to do a few other headings. So if you go ahead and copy this, you can go ahead and copy this, let's say 6 times. Well, 5 times. You already have 1 copy. And then what you're going to do is you're going to change the tags just in number order, because we do have 6 headings. Okay, we have 6 heading elements. Okay, so this is heading 1, heading 2, heading 3, heading 4, 5, 6. Make sure you do this, the ending tags as well. All right, now when you run this, you can actually see the difference between the between each element. So this would be heading 1, this would be heading 2, heading 3, and etc. Now in HTML, we don't really use anything more than heading 3, maybe heading 4, but this is not really for styling. It's more to give the browser more specific information on how to read your code. Okay, styling, everything that we do to style is going to be done using CSS. Okay, so this is all there is to headings. Let's see. So yeah, these are 6 headings that we can use, and that's what you can do. Okay, so let's move on to paragraph. So now the paragraph element, it starts with, it's just a P. So let's go ahead and close that in. Now within this paragraph, you can go ahead and click enter so we could actually write on it. Here's a little trick. So instead of writing random words for like 5,000 hours, sorry, I spelled that wrong. Words for 5,000 hours, etc., and wasting your time, when this is just a practice, there's something called lorem. And when you click on lorem, you write lorem and then you click enter without using a space, it's actually going to generate random word for you. And so then you run it and you can see it on the browser. Now let's say you want a certain amount of words, well, you can do lorem, let's say you want 10 words, well then you can do lorem 10 without a space, click enter, and then it's going to give you 10 words. So it's pretty cool, pretty convenient. So those are just paragraphs. Let's go ahead and move on to style tags. Now I'm going to go ahead and copy this paragraph if I were you, and I'm going to go ahead and put it in make bold and make text italics. So the way we do this is there is this bold tag called B. So we're going to choose certain words. So I'm going to choose these 3 words, and I'm just going to go ahead and bold them. So the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to go ahead and put the surround these words with the bold tag. And when we run that, you can see that the words are bolded now. Okay, same thing with making these text italics. So the reason actually why it's only 2 styling tags is because, again, we really want to make sure we are using CSS to style, but it doesn't hurt to show you this, right? So the italics tag is basically an I, so super simple to remember. I'm going to go ahead and run that, and then you can see that it's italicized now. Okay, now let's move on to hyperlinks. Okay, so in this case, let's see. We're going to insert a link on text that will open on the same page. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and paste the paragraph again. And we're going to insert link on the text, or like, let's change this actually to be within the text. Okay, that makes much more sense. So the way we do this, if we actually run it, we see that, you know, it's just a random line of random sentence, okay? But we want to link to something. So let's actually write something else. Let's do check this page to explore everything you want to know. Okay. Now let's run that, and it's just gonna do this, right? Now this page here. So what I want to do is I want to make sure that I can hyperlink. When I click on this page in the browser, it takes me to an actual page. So what we're going to do is we're going to add this link tag, which is not the same as the one here. This is actually different. This is actually for referencing, you know, file sheets. More specifically, this link tag is actually starts with an A. We call it an A tag. So we're going to use an A tag, right? And we're going to go ahead and close it after the text we want to display. And within this A tag, we're going to go ahead and go inside the start tag, and we're going to add an attribute called href, which we already went over, hypertext reference, and we're going to add the link to the website we want to reference. And we do this using double quotations or single quotations, whatever you prefer. So the link that I'm going to put in is actually called www.google.com. All right. Now, automatically, the A tag will open on the same page. So you don't need to add anything else. So if we're going to go ahead and run this, and now you can see that it's underlined, we click on it. Oh, forgot to say that when the A tags don't actually work on the Replit, you're going to have to open it on a new browser, on a new tab. So when you click on it, it actually brings you to the Google website, which is super cool. Now we're going to do the exact same thing. So let's go ahead and copy this. And the only change that we're going to make that will open on a new page or a new tab is that we're going to use another attribute called target. Now we're going to set this target equal to a certain setting or a value, and this value is going to be underscore blank. Now what this does, what makes it different, is that this one is going to open on the same page, and then the one we just did, by setting the target equal to blank, it's opening this page on a new blank page. Okay, on a new blank tab. Okay, so that's what that is. All right, and finally, we have a last one here. So this is, let's actually change this within the text. Now the next one is inserting a link within inserting a file link on the text or within the text. File link within the text. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and just start a new paragraph here. I'm going to do lorem. And right here in the middle, let's say in the middle right here, I'm going to go ahead and just add a sentence here. I'm going to say, click on this, click on, or I'm going to just say, let's say, check out our about page for more information about us. Okay, and within here, I'm going to go ahead and just add an A tag to our about page. And within the start tag, I'm going to go ahead and do a specify my href attribute, and I'm going to set it equal to my about.html file, which is right here. If you don't have this yet, what you do is you add the file. You just add the file, and then you do about.html, and it becomes an HTML file. Okay, so let's go back to our index.html. Where were we? We were right here. Okay, so we're not going to make it run on a new page. We're just going to go ahead and run it, and we're going to click on it. Actually, we're going to open a new tab again, and we're going to click on it, and it should take us to our about.html, and you can actually verify by looking at the tab here. You could see that the path ultimately leads to about.html rather than, you know, your HTML, your normal HTML practice, okay? All right, moving on to lists. So now you have unordered lists and ordered lists. So the way you specify an unordered list is you use this tag called UO. So the I'm sorry, not UO, UL. So this is the unordered list. I'm going to do a closing tag as well. And within this unordered list, what you're going to do is you're going to have some list tags. So likewise, these have start tags and close tags. Now within these list tags, let me delete this real quick, this space. You are going to put in the items that you want. So this is going to be item 1, and you're going to do, let's say you want another list tag, so you're going to do item 2. And when you run that, you can see that it's going to give you an unordered list. So now you may be asking, what is the difference between an unordered list and an ordered list? Well, an unordered list comes with bullet points or any kind of symbol you want, which you can change when we have it CSS. I'll show you tomorrow. And then an ordered list is numerical. So it's either numbered by Roman numerals or just regular numerals. Numbers, not numerals, okay? So I'm going to show you that real quick. You do this by OL, so that's actually the name of the element. So you're going to go ahead and close that. And then you're going to do the same thing. It's the same thing. So a new list, you're going to do item 1, close that list tag. Item 2, close the list tag. Okay, now you're going to run that, and it's going to give you a numerical list. So those are the differences between unordered and ordered lists. Moving on to tables. Okay. So for a table, you actually start with a table tag, surprisingly, and you want to close it here, table tag. Okay. Now, when you have a table, the first thing you want to do is you want to use this fed element. Now, this fed element is actually it stands for the table head element. So we're going to go ahead and write that here, fed. And then you are going to go ahead and close that. Wait, you actually close it since it's a head element, you want to do it here. Okay. Now, the next thing you want to do is you want to specify your table row. So each row you have to specify, and you specify by using the tr tag. So we're going to do tr. I'm going to go ahead and close that in. So now your first row is actually going to be your headings, and so you want to specify, or you can call them like your column names, etc. So this table row is going to have a table heading within this row. So if that makes sense, I'll actually show you right now. So we can actually move this closing tag to here. And the first thing you're going to have is table heading. So you're going to do a th. And you can call this, like, let's say, like your name. So let me run it. So now you only have your name, right? So all these tags, the purpose is more like for structure. So your browser knows, can read it better. You know, it's not really for styling, it's just structure. The thing that really made it pop on the browser is this table head element, right? Okay, now you want to do another one. Let's call this name and email. So now if we run it, we have another heading called email. All right, now you're gonna go ahead and do another row. So this other row is actually going to be the values of the, let's just say of like one person with a name and one person with an email. Okay, but the difference is that much like the HTML structure, this is just the heading, right? So this is like the, actually let me write it so you remember. So this is the, where did we go here? Okay, the table head element. The table head element. So anything that's within these tags, the th tag is only supposed to be about, you know, the header, like the headings of the element. Okay, now there is now a body. There's a table body element. Now this table body element is referenced by T-body. So table stands for table body, obviously. So we're gonna go ahead and close that in. Okay, and now you're gonna have another row, and in this case, instead of a table heading, you're gonna do table data, which is specified by TD. So my name is Sarai. Let me just put in my first name for time purposes. And then my email is sarai@empower.py.org. Okay, and if I run that, you can clearly see that under name there's Sarai, and under email there's sarai@empower.py.org. Okay, and that's pretty much all there is to it. If you want to add another heading, you can go ahead and do so. Let's say we want, I don't know, eye color for some weird reason. Let's go ahead and do that. We can add the data, right? We can add the data that my eye color is brown. Okay, run that, and you can see another heading and another table data. Okay, but each of them are actual rows, right? All right, moving on to forms, my favorite. Forms are my favorite, I don't know why. So the form tag, similar to the table tag, starts with an actual element that's called form. And I'm gonna go ahead and end it here. All right. Okay, so the first thing you want to do, there are different inputs for a form. So you can have a text input, email input, password, file, text area input, drop down menu, and even a submit button. And we're going to go ahead and do all of those actually. So we have a form element, so everything that's within this element is going to be considered part of the form. So now the first input, the way we do this is we want to make sure that we label what it is. So in this case, we're going to use a label tag, and we're going to call it, let's say, first name. Okay, label tag. So the first thing that we want from somebody is like their first name, and that's going to be a text input. Okay, and now there's going to be an actual tag called input. Now for this tag, what you're going to do is you're going to specify an attribute, and it's going to be called type and name. So the type is specifying the type of input you want. So in this case, it's text. It is case sensitive. And then the name is just going to be for the browser to understand. It's not going to appear in the actual browser. So now you can clearly see first name, and then you have a cool little insert form where you could actually write your name. Super cool, right? And it even pops up like a normal form, like right here it pops up. That's super cool. Okay, now we're gonna go ahead and do the same thing. You can even copy and paste it for the email. The only thing you have to change is the actual type, right? The name of it. So you could just say email, and you can also change email here. So now let's be clear. What's showing up at the browser, like the first name here, where you see first name, is the label. Okay, it's the label. That's what's showing up in the browser. Okay, so if we run that, now we have an email, and we can look, it pops up all of our emails here. So it's my personal email right there. Isn't that cool? It just pops it up. Okay, now the next one is a password input, and I'm gonna actually show you a little quick trick of using placeholders. So in this case, we're gonna do password. We are also going to change the type, and we're gonna set it equal to password lowercase, all lowercase. So let's do that, password, and we're going to add one more attribute, and we're going to call this placeholder. And what this is going to do is going to act as a placeholder. So whatever you want the, let's say, input box to say, that's what it's going to say. So let's say enter, or let's say enter a six-digit password. Now when we run that, we can see that inside there's a placeholder called enter a 6-digit password. Okay, so that's another attribute we can use for the input element. Now also notice that this input element is actually a self-closing element, or like we specified earlier, a void element or an empty element, because there is no closing tag. It closes by itself. Okay, now we're going to do a couple more. So we have now our file input. So we're going to do file here. We're going to change it to file, and I'm going to change the placeholder to, actually there is no placeholder, it's just a button. Yeah, hold on. If we run it, it actually gives you a button here, so you can choose, oh, there's my profile picture, but you can choose to upload that file. Actually, yeah, you can just choose, but it's not going to actually do anything because it doesn't have any functionality yet. So upload file, let's change to that. Now, something that you see very commonly is a text area input. So this kind of makes a little box where you can change the size of it. So this actually has its own tag called text area. And all you have to do is it kind of acts as the label, is just specify, you know, the message. Excuse me. Oh, my apologies, hold on. There is a label for text area. So you want to go ahead and write that there. So message. And the text area actually works as its own input thing, except it's an actual element. And so you're going to go ahead and do name within the starting tag, and you're going to make it, what is it called? Let's see. It's called comments. And then make sure you close in that starting tag. Now when you run it, there you go. You can see that it's a message and you can resize it. Super cool. Now the last input is the drop down menu. Excuse me. So now the drop down menu, it's the same thing. You have a label, and then wow, okay. Okay, so for the drop down menu, it's the same thing. We're going to go ahead and put in a label, and let's ask a question like, do you want to receive a confirmation? Do do you want to receive a copy of your message? Okay. So let's close in that label tag. Now we're going to go ahead and do select tag. Now in the select tag, we're going to go ahead and go into the start tag, and we're going to give it an attribute called name. And this is basically what specifies the type of, I don't know. It just gives it a name, like in the browser. It's not necessarily what it's going to show up in the browser. So we can just say like copy of message question. Okay, and now within the select tag, we're gonna go ahead and do option tags. So these are our actual options. So in our option tag, you want to add an attribute called value. So actually, let me close in the tag first so we have a clear understanding. So we're going to go ahead to go into the start tag, and we're going to add a value attribute, which is kind of ironic because, you know, the setting you set your attribute equal is called a value, but in this case the value is an attribute, so it's pretty cool. So we're gonna set the value equal to what we want it to say. So we're gonna say yes. Okay, so like yes, I want to receive a copy, or no, I don't want to receive a copy. But let's actually write what we actually wanted to say. So again, what we actually wanted to appear on the browser is going to be in between the start tag and the end tag, similar to our A-links. If we go back up here in our A-links, what we want to appear in our browser is in between our start tag, right? All of this is our start tag, and our end tag. Okay, let's go back. All right. So let's do another option, and this time it's going to have a value of no. We're going to go ahead and close that in. Now when we run it, we can see the question, do you want to receive a copy of your message? You can have a drop down menu, yes and no. Perfect, it works. All right. Now in a form, there is something called a submit button. Now in this, it's super simple. All you have to do is basically another input tag, and you just have to specify a type attribute and a name attribute and a value attribute. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and do an input tag, right? And within there, we're gonna do a type. So we're gonna specify the type of input, and it's gonna be submit. The value, let's say the name. Submit button or whatever, I don't know. You can say whatever you want. And then we're gonna do a value submit. Don't forget to set that equal to here. Now when we run it, you have a submit button now. And when you can actually click on it, it kind of reloads the page. Okay, now that's one way of creating a button through a form, but we can also just create a button normally. And the way we do that is by an actual button tag, and all we have to do is just do button and then enter. Let's actually close in the button tag or element and just write what we want the button to say. So like enter, and if we run it, now we have an enter button. Okay, and let's see. We can do close to, I'm not enter, but like, let's say go back. Now we have a go back button, right? Super simple, super cool. Now we're gonna go ahead and move on to images. But before that, I wanted to say, I wanted to kind of make you look to notice something, right? So notice that this is very messy. Like there's no space in between each of the elements. So the way we fix this in HTML is by using this void element, self-closing element, empty element, whatever you want to call it, called the break tag or the break element. So what we're going to do is we're just going to add a break in between each of the elements. Okay. So that's what we're going to do. Add a break in between each of the elements. I'm going to actually put it over here so you can see the break as it's going. So now look, we have one break here, one break there. So now it's all not in line anymore. Okay, now when we run it, we can see that it's all in block form now. Oops, sorry about that. Okay, now we can go ahead and move on to images. Now, importing a regular image. So the way we do this, there's actually called an image, a tag called image. So we're gonna go ahead and close that out. And within it, we have an attribute called source. Well, SRC stands for source. And here it's basically the same thing as href. You're just going to go ahead and just insert the link to your image. So that's what we're going to do. Let's go ahead and search up coffee as an image and pick just a random one. We can go ahead and right click and we can, instead of saving the image and downloading it, blah, 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 we could just copy the image address. Close that in and you can just paste it right here into the source. And when you run that, now you can see that there is an image here. Now, notice that it's a little too big. Now, I'm going to give you a little hack here, which you're not really supposed to do with HTML. You can, because it's basically styling. It's basically another attribute. So you can do width, set it equal to 100. And then you can also change the height and set that equal to 100. Now, if you run that, you can see that it's significantly smaller, obviously. Okay, so that's pretty cool. That's importing a regular image. We also changed the size of the image. Now, let's say we want to add a hyperlink to an image. So like if we click on the image, it would bring us to, let's say, another page. Now, the way we do this, I'm actually going to go ahead and start with an A link. So you actually have to start with an A link. So let me do that here. Right. Let me do this. Close it, right? Go to the start tag. Specify what your href is. So let's say you want to go to Google, right? Okay, so that's your Google link. And you don't really care about the target, etc. But what you want to show, so just like we wanted like a text to show, for example, like click this link, if we run that, and you can see it right here, click this link, it's going to take us to Google, right? But this is what it shows, right? Whatever's between the start tag and the end tag. Now let's say we want an image, so we want to click on an image, and when we click on that image, it's going to take us to a new web page. Well, all we have to do is actually just add the image tag here. And I'm actually going to copy the link, go to the start tag of the image tag, because that's what you do, and then just paste in that link. And now when you click on this link, I'm clicking on it, ready? It brings me to Google. So that's super cool, super interesting. Now, the last thing I want to show you is block quotes and abbreviations. So these are basically, how do you call this? These are semantic tags. They're not really used to, this is what you call semantic tags. So they're basically tags that could be used for styling in HTML. Like it may seem like it's styling, but really they're not. It's just used to tell the browser more information about your page. And you can really do this in CSS. You don't need to, do these. So, but let's actually show you what I'm talking about before, so you actually get an idea, So block quotes. I don't know if you've ever written a research paper, but usually when you have more than a few words cited, you usually have it in an indented block. And so this is what this does, right? So we have just a block quote tag element, and then you can insert your paragraph, let's say lorem, right? You can insert your paragraph, and what having the block quote element does, it just indents it. So let me actually show you what it looks like without the block quote element here. So if you run it without the block quote element, it looks like this, right? So it's not indented, but when you add the block quote, you can see the difference. It's indented, right? So this basically tells the browser, so it's not really much of a styling choice. It's most like, think of it this way, like when Google or a search engine is going through your web page, or let's say a random person, let's say in Europe, is searching for a specific quote of this specific book or of a specific person, that quote that they're searching for, if that quote is what is indented here, like if the search engine can see that this is a quote, right? So it says, oh, this is a quote, right? Because it's under a block quote tag because you specified it to be. Now that the search engine is going to recommend your site to that person in Europe who's looking for this specific quote. Okay, so that's what it does. It's not really a styling tag. You can indent as well using CSS. Okay, so this is called a semantic tag, something that just that gives more information to your browser or to a search engine or to the person reading your code. Okay, finally we have abbreviations. So for abbreviations, there is this tag here. Okay, and abbreviations are different than acronyms, but okay, so abbreviations, I mean, y'all really don't need to know this. Yeah, y'all need to know this. So let me take that out. So yeah, the difference between abbreviation and acronyms. All right, and that's block quote, and that is the end of our HTML tutorial today. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, please email me at Sarai@empower.py.org. Excuse me. You can also leave a comment down below if you're seeing this on YouTube. And yes, have a great day.